Good morning.
Good morning. It's Sunday and it's August 4th, for our first Sunday in August 2024. Our topic today is, who can you not forgive? And I might say right now, because sometimes we forgive and we kind of need to take it, re-forgive later on when we take back our grudge or take back our upset about who done it.
When I was younger, we used to forgive and forget. Now that I'm older, I forget. Sometimes I forgive.
You forget that you have
Yeah,
forgiven.
or that I even need to. Yeah.
So what is really interesting to me is that all major religions have this golden rule. In Christianity, it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's very succinct. It really is clear. It really says it all. Um, don't do anything you wouldn't want done to you. But it doesn't quite talk about forgiveness. But every religion has this wisdom, and I want to share them with you because I'm fascinated by this and all the many ways they have of saying it. The Baha'i faith, which is a relatively new faith that was born in the Middle East, but is more popular out of the Middle East because they only want their religion there. Um, and I'm talking about Islam there. So the Baha'i faith says, lay not on any soul a load that you would not wish to be laid upon you, and desire not for anyone the things you would not desire for yourself. Buddhism says, treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Christianity is one I already shared with you. And that was a quote from Jesus, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Confucianism, which is the ancient Chinese religion, says one word which sums up the basis of all good conduct: loving kindness. Do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. That's also that loving kindness is the basis of Buddhism. But nevertheless, I go on. Hinduism says, this is the sum of duty. Do not do to others that which would cause pain if done to you. And that's from the Mahabharata, a sacred text. Islam says, not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. That's a statement by Muhammad. Judaism says, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. Tao, which is a Chinese religion, Taoism, says, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. That's from Lao Tzu. At its core, the golden rule is about one universal concept: compassion. Deeply consider the great spiritual traditions. Deeply consider this. The great spiritual traditions implore how your actions might affect another person. Put yourself in their shoes. Exercise empathy. Use your heart's imagination and consider their feelings in the same way we innately consider our own. Put this into action. Make it a spiritual law. And that was written by Rainn Wilson, who wrote Soul Bloom.
If we believe that our body is a temple, we really want to make sure that we keep it clean, that we take care of it in a kind and loving way. And one of the things that occurs to me around forgiveness is everything that's ever happened to us is stored in conscious mind somewhere. And the unforgiveness and the anger and the hurt and the frustration and the pain that goes with that may not be conscious at all times, but it lays in the underbelly of consciousness. And one of the ways I know this is that people that have had traumatic experiences or people that have had horrible things happen to them that they haven't forgiven believe that they're okay until they get a massage and somebody touches a particular muscle, and all of a sudden they have this memory come back to them. So forgiveness is important at another level, not just forgiveness because it's the right thing to do, and it is, but forgiveness, it relieves the burden at multiple levels in your own being. And it's not, we don't often realize that, but we don't forgive and forget. We forgive. And as you said earlier, sometimes we have to go back and forgive again and again and again to
because we
get,
take it back.
yeah, well, but sometimes too, we also forgive in layers.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll forgive a behavior, and then we'll have to go back and think about the impact and forgive that the pain we felt from that and the repercussions that came from that. Or someone else steps into our life who does the same thing, and it reminds us all, and we have to go through it all over again. So, there's an inventory that we have inside that we don't realize we have. And that inventory has to be examined from time to time, and we need to shed those burdens if we possibly can.
Yes, as I was reading those, I thought, well, it's easy for me, and I think for most people generally, to want good for other people and be sad when they're hurt. And those are usually the not personal people, just people in general. We want good things for them. But where we have trouble is when we have been hurt or wounded or injured emotionally, particularly. Uh, those are the ones we have trouble for forgiving because we are so busy being right about it that they have done us wrong
Mhm.
and they shouldn't have done that. And so we get in this right wrong thing, and that's what keeps us from being able to forgive, because forgiving is letting that injury go. It's not condoning the injury.
For sure.
It's not ever condoning the action, but it is saying, I'm not going to carry this burden of resentment around with me because it burdens me. But often they don't even know that you're carrying around this resentment uh, because you've never told them.
One of the things that I've read a while back, and I don't remember now all of the details of the article, but it was about the relationship between stored anger, unforgiveness, and heart disease. And the suggestion is that you can break the heart in many ways. You can break it because you don't take care of it, or you can break it because there's so many burdens that you're carrying that you haven't let go of that the heart remembers. We actually know that the heart thinks and has its own ability to relate to experiences and talks to the brain. They actually communicate with each other, which is really interesting to think. In fact, our whole body is actually in conversation with our experience. It's actually, and that is why we talk about healing. We talk about the way spirit can work through us, because every cell is alive and active and engaged in whatever it is we're doing. We tend to think that it's a single belief or a single idea, but in fact, our whole life experience is being influenced, is influencing every cell of our body.
It is exactly. And so when we carry those wounds, we we are really just burdening ourselves. As
Mhm.
I say, the other person's often even unaware, or from their perspective, did nothing wrong. Um,
Who was the New Thought person who wrote a book about, she related each of the organs and parts of the body to different things we were holding on to, like a pain in the neck, and you could look at,
I didn't know a New Thought person
oh
wrote a
yeah, I
book
can't
like
think
that.
of her name. She was
Louise Hay.
years ago. She had a whole book
Are you
on
talking about Louise Hay?
Louise Hay. Yeah, she talks
Mhm.
about the relationship between how we store our pain and suffering in our body. And for us to heal our bodies, we really need to be willing to look, is that pain in the neck from an experience, or is it that I twisted my head too far? you know, yeah, organ, and what we also know is that the organ that is the least able to manage stress will be the one that is affected. And so the weakest link is the one that we have pain in as we go on in our lives. So we could ask ourselves the question, is the pain that I'm feeling in any area of my body related to the pain that is related to me not having forgiven, to an incident that happened that I need to let go of?
Mm, It could be. And when I was studying A Course in Miracles, I went through that course 2 times.
Really great course.
And I was the time I was working on forgiving my father. And I, I would just find I would try to forgive and then I would take it back and try to forgive and take it back. And that's all about being right, and
Mhm.
making them wrong. But the Course in Miracles said, many human beings are really cannot forgive it. They don't have the capacity. But what you can do is ask the Holy Spirit to forgive for you. Now, the Holy Spirit isn't even a concept that we talk about in our particular teaching, the science of mind. But I grew up with it, certainly in Catholicism. I grew up with the concept of the Holy Spirit. And so I tried it. I asked the Holy Spirit to forgive for me. And it actually worked. And I thought, imagine that. That one I don't think I ever took back. But I am finding recently there's another one I've taken back, and it's not my father. And I did share this with one of our people who was here with us today, and I said, I'm just not ready to forgive that person yet. And so I thought about it, and I thought, what is that about? And well, it's about, that person hasn't acknowledged the wrong they've done to me. And I just really have to own that and say, that's not what forgiveness is about. They don't have to do anything. It's what I have to do, which is to say, I may not have liked it. It may not have been fair, but I had a part that I played with that, and I need to let it go for me,
Mhm.
for me. And
We both, in addition to being ministers, have a background in mental health, so we do a lot of therapy work. And I had a client recently who was going through the exact same thing. I can't forgive, I can't forgive. And I suggested to the client, and the reason that she couldn't forgive, she said, was because the person died and she couldn't connect with him and forgive him. She wanted him to meet her face to face. And so the idea that I had, which is I've seen before, is I said, I'd like you to sit in the chair that you're sitting in, and across from you, we'll have an empty chair. And I'd like you to tell the person who you're upset with, imagining that person is in the empty chair, what you want forgiveness for. And she said, wow, that's really quite an idea. And I said, and then if you really want to unload this burden from yourself, sit in that chair and imagine that person having received your forgiveness, and what would that person say back to you? And I got a call sometime later that she had done that and said, that's the first time I've actually been able to sit in the seat of the person I needed to forgive and realize they too had a life. They too were experiencing struggles and difficulties, and their judgment was impaired. And I needed to forgive that they weren't perfect either. They weren't perfect
that's a
enough or
great example.
evolved enough to even realize what they had done. And she said, interestingly, this forgiveness is a kind of a dance between two people, and both people are taking steps. And it's easy when your foot gets stepped on to blame the person who did it, rather than saying, this was a dance that we did, and both of us in many cases weren't very well equipped for the dance.
Yes, and I'm remembering the patients we worked with who were working a 12-step program. Could have been Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the many 12-step programs. And there's a step where they make amends to
Mm.
people they've injured. And one of the first mistakes, hopefully somebody teaches them not to make, is to go to people that they feel injured by and say, I forgive you. Because that person never doesn't ever see things from the same perspective. It's you're going to forgive me?
For what you
Let me
did.
tell you what you've done to injure me. So that usually backfires. Even if that person does need to forgive them, they don't need to tell somebody that they are forgiving them.
I want to go back to what you talked about when you talked about the Holy Spirit. We have in different cultures and in different religions very different names for what it is in us that is divine, that is spiritual. Seth talks and Seth speaks in the Seth materials about the source self. And he refers to that within us, there's a source self, a deeper knowing, a deeper part of our own being that is guiding and informed and has all of our history recorded in it.
Yeah.
And that source self could very much look like someone else's religion, the Holy Spirit. That which is divine in you is alive and well. Call it whatever you want to call it. But the source of you, that wonderful part of you that came here and joined your body and is a part of you, but will continue on with you and is you, that's a deeper you. And so at the superficial level, when we're busy being hurt and reacting to that and limiting our connection to our own source self, we're injuring ourselves. And we're able to let go of that. We can then allow that divine pathway. In yoga, they talk very much about the divine, the chakras, and there's an interconnectedness of all of our parts and they all relate to one another. And so for the spiritual part of this, I think it's really, really important that we're saying yes to forgiveness, to say, in order to say yes to the spirit of our own nature to thrive.
Exactly. And I believe that we chose this lifetime,
Yeah.
and a lot of the hardships that have come to us that we've experienced were actually anticipated.
Yeah.
In other words, we don't come here to have heaven on earth. We come here as spirit, as soul, to experience challenges and hardships. We grow more from our hardships than we do from when everything is rosy.
Mhm.
Have you ever grown from when everything is going your way? I've, my growth has all come from painful experience that I need to overcome and forgive or understand or grow myself uh, through empathy because I've experienced something that somebody else has now, and I better understand that pain. So so we need to stop the blame game.
Mhm.
That anytime we're hurt, somebody's done something to us. We might be a participant.
I was working on forgiving someone who had betrayed me, and I was working on betrayal, and I heard an inner voice say, "And what did you learn from the betrayal?" And I didn't want to hear that. And then I thought about what did I learn from the betrayal, and I thought, wow, this is a sacred betrayal. I learned
Ah,
so much from the betrayal that I wouldn't have learned. I learned about myself. I learned about my own ego. I learned about the need to be right. I to control things, to insulate, and all of those things were all a part of the betrayal. And what it taught me about myself and what I could do and how I could not have that happen again in situations that were more important and had a higher value than that one. So you could bless the betrayal and say, thank you for whatever I learned, and I forgive you for having been that teacher, for the pain that I felt and the resentment that I had, that you were my teacher.
that's another good point. That often the people that hurt you the most in this lifetime are people who we believe who agreed to be
Antagonist.
the villain in your drama.
Yeah.
They loved you so much, they were willing to come and participate in the drama that would help you grow by being the villain. Now contemplate that.
Have you ever watched a movie where you saw the good guy and the bad guy, or the good person and the bad person, or whatever the relationship was, and you watched them through the movie sort out all kinds of horrible, difficult things, and you're with the person who's the victim, and you're with the person who's the victor, and then you switch sides, and when you get all done, you say, that was a great movie. Well, what made it so great? Well, they worked out all this terrible stuff that we all have to struggle with it. And then you realize we do that all the time, except it's not produced and we don't make a lot of money on it, as they do in a good movie. But in fact, you actually seek out dramas that help you understand life better. Except when you're in the drama, somebody's right and somebody's wrong, and it's got to be you that's right, of course.
Yes, that's key.
Yeah, but in the movie, you see, yeah, that person thinks they're right, and they are kind of right, but the other person's right too. The other person came with all kinds of baggage that you know about because you've heard the backstory. And so when they relate to each other, you're doing forgiveness to the nasty person saying, you don't know their backstory yet. Well, that's also true in real life. And so it's really, really important for us to realize we don't have all the information, we don't have all the facts, and we have a perspective that comes with our history. And forgiveness is an integral part of opening our eyes to the truth of our being.
Exactly. So I'm going to close. I've got a couple of really good quotes here. See, and that one's too long. So I'm going to give this one is by Cory Booker,
Oh, I like
who
it.
I keep wondering why I'm not hearing more about him because I really like him as a politician. He says, I hope this is a period of America when we come to a deeper love, when our circle of empathy expands, and we realize that, quote, one nation under God, indivisible, is not just a quaint idea, but that it is an unescapable truth. And if we ignore it, we do so at our own peril. Yeah, this we've become so divided as parties that it's just we're right and the other one is wrong, and so how are we going to unite our country and and get off that position, that we're right, they're wrong. We need to learn to try to understand the other one's positions as well.
Werner Erhard said a long time ago, and I love it, it's more important for us to be right and look good than it is to know the truth.
Who said that?
Werner Erhard,
Oh, yes, he did.
yeah.
Yes, he did. To be right and look good, yeah.
And the other
At
piece,
least with the people we hang out with.
right, and my hero, who was one of my heroes, we have a lot of different heroes, but we're not Werner, father of cognitive therapy, Albert Ellis. Albert Ellis said, and this is so important, we're always doing the best we can, given what we know, which could be crazy, and what we believe, which could be even crazier. But since we know it and we believe it, we wouldn't go against that. What we need to be able to do is to be open to examining our beliefs and examining what we know and asking the question, is there more to know? Could this be something different than I think? But we would be foolish if we didn't operate out of what we know and believe.
That's true. That does help you understand a lot of people's
Sure.
actions.
When I hear people who have a different political perspective than I do, who are terrified, absolutely terrified, that if the person that they want to have elected doesn't get elected, that the world will fall apart. I have to understand then why they are so adamant and why they're willing to pick up guns and arms, because they're really afraid. That doesn't mean they're right, but they actually have a belief and a knowing that is so powerful and unfortunately not able to be examined, that their position is immovable. So what I have to be able to do is to say, I appreciate how it is you're feeling and how it is you're seeing the world. And I don't share it, but I sure do understand it.
I So the important thing with this is to ask yourself, if you still feel like you can't forgive somebody, who is the non-forgiveness hurting? You know, is that other person even still alive to be hurt by your unwillingness to forgive? Or is that person even aware, you know, oh, because really the truth is if we are unwilling to forgive, we hurt ourselves with the resentment we're carrying around. So I invite you, as I invite myself, you might need to do it multiple times, but practice. Forgiveness is a practice. It's not something that's one and done. You practice it. And when you find an old resentment coming back, practice forgiving again.
So I think we ought to end with the treatment. And I think I'm going to start it off with what I know is that there is a divine spirit within me that is within each and every human being. That spirit thrives on love. That spirit thrives on understanding and compassion. And so I choose today to feed that spirit and to know that that spirit is thriving within me and has the capacity to overcome all obstacles, all things physical and non-physical, that that part of me that is divine is working here and now in this universe in a perfect way.
And so I know I am willing. I am ready. I am willing. I choose to ask for all the help I can get from spirit, from God, from love, to do this practice. Say, I forgive so and so for such and such. And I do so now. I'm willing and ready to release it, to forgive and be free. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And so I want to share now a screen with you because this is your opportunity to share your good and to manifest your own abundance, because as you give, you do receive. It's the law of circulation. So we have on our website, which is cslpalmbeaches.org, a button at the top that says ways to donate. And that's what you go to when you would like to support us financially. And we give you great thanks and appreciation for doing so. We know many of you are signed up to do so regularly, and that keeps us going. So we appreciate it. And I'd like for us to all say together now this affirmation, this statement of knowing the truth about as we give, we do receive. So say with me, my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. There we go. Thank you. And so we're going to stop the recording now.